So the day's arrived. Finally going to Southampton to pick up the Lotus Esprit S1, and I can't wait to see it. Now, it could be a pup, and I promise you that I'm going to show this warts and all. So if it is a pup and it's a complete humiliation for me, you'll know about it. So let's see what we've got. Towing a trailer down now, down the M3. Got a trailer from Berkshire County Trailers. They're nice people, so we've got a nice car trailer. Should be a breeze. Only slight difficulty thrown in is the first time we've towed an electric car, and I'm just checking the range because I don't trust electric cars and range and all that, but it seems to be fine at the moment with an empty trailer anyway. But come on, let's see if we bought a pup or if we've got a good one. I'll find out soon. There it is. Let's have a look. Well, it's got wheels. That's always good. Indicators on. A lot of parts in there. It's not bad, you know. It's what I thought. No one's stolen the badge off the back. I was worried about that. I mean, this rear window is worth £2,000 now. You can't get them. So little things like that mean a lot. First sight, looking good. It's not a pup. Well, it might be, but not on the outside. Oh, I love it. Down, 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 down. Yeah, got the makings of a clean car. Wheels are good. Even these little caps on the alloy, on these alloys, you can't get them anymore. So things like that make a lot of difference. But really, until we get it back now, have a proper look at it, won't be able to tell. But so far so good. Let's get it loaded. So the Esprit S1 has finally arrived back. So pleased to see it in Southampton and picking it up there. It was great. Shame it's raining, but it often does in this country. But pleased to have it back. In this video, I'm going to talk about the costs of bringing it in, the condition it's in, and also ultimately whether it was the right thing to do to buy a car in the States and bring it to the UK, or buy this car in the States. So I'm going to go through that today. I'm going to start off with the final cost of bringing it in. I know I was sort of superficial about it in my last video. Check that out if you get a chance. But I bought this for $17,000, which is about £13,100. And pickup delivery to the docks in the US was $500, which I think is quite good value, from Philadelphia to New York. Ocean freight was $950. Again, I think that's really good value. It's, you know, it's quite across the Atlantic. Custom clearance in the US was $95 and $15 to weigh it or something. And then in the UK, custom clearance was $595. I've kept it all in dollars for now. VAT, 5%, because it's over 30 years old, was $963. So this $17,000 car turns up in the UK at just over $20,000, or this £13,200 car is landed at £15,700 or something like that. So it's not to be underestimated, but not huge money to import a car from the States into the UK. I can't talk for Australia or any other country's customs costs, but shipping costs aren't as bad as they perhaps used to be. I was quite pleasantly surprised, shall we say. I mean, it seems even cheaper when you import from the West Coast, because that seems, you look at it and think that's a hell of a journey, but they're sort of similar, because I suppose so much comes in from the West Coast that there's a bit of economy of scale going on there. Let's see if it's a hit or miss though. Let's have a look at it. So first thing I want to do is have a look at the outside of the car, see from a body perspective what needs doing. The first thing that jumps out at me is there's a trim missing from the top of the door here, which is pretty simple, and I think Kim, who owned the car in 2017-18, I think he's already bought those bits, because I've noticed a tube from SJ Sports Cars, who are here in the UK, that he bought that trim from. The door handles, Morris Marina door handles, lots of British cars had those door handles, are pitted, but I can get new ones of those. They're same as MGB as well, so there's no point in doing up a door handle like that when you can get new ones, a pair with new keys and everything for 100 quid, so that's worth getting. This bit along here should have a rib of trim, and I don't quite understand why it hasn't got it. Maybe it didn't have it on a US spec car. If somebody out there can help me with that, that would be interesting, because I don't understand why it's got this coach line. It hasn't been done recently, but maybe the trim came off and somebody just put the coach line on. Anyway, that needs looking at. I was really worried about the filler cap, because I knew from the last car we did, Lotus Esprit, check out the previous video if you haven't seen it, but I was worried about the filler cap. We found that, so I'm chuffed about that. So that's good. These windows are in good condition as well, and this bit of trim was missing on my last car and I couldn't get it. I've got it in the end, but it was absolutely terribly difficult to get, so that's really important. But this was covered in tape and it's taken the paint off, which is a shame, but again, nothing that can't be sorted out. It's got a hole for an aerial. Probably end up keeping that, because I don't want, when you're painting it, it seems a bit of a waste to have to paint this whole wing just to fill that hole. The rear window is priceless. You don't want to lose that, and it's in reasonably good condition. It did have, someone put a spoiler on here that's gone now, but it's left holes, so this does need to be painted, this rear section, which is a shame. The rear lights are US spec lights that haven't got orange indicators. I've already bought a new set of lights for, I think they were £75 each. They're actually the same as a Fiat X19, so I will have UK spec lights, but I'll keep these in case it ever gets imported back to the US. There's no point in getting rid of them, because you'd need those. And the number plates around is a US spec one. I could try and get a UK number plates around, which is wider and thinner, less tall, but I think I'm going to keep that and just try and get a small plate for it. It's a bit of a shame to have changed that, because again, you kind of want to leave things like that, because that would be a lot of fiberglass work to fill in the hole, because it's just a different shape. Luckily, as I said previously, the previous owner had bought a UK spec bumper, which is great, because again, that's really hard to get hold of. So overall, this is great on the back of the car. Let me show you the front of the car. So yeah, there's holes for the door mirrors, which I probably mentioned before, but the UK spec cars, and therefore the Bond car, had a mirror there, which very hard to get. So I'm going to start that search now. So these holes need to be filled. This front screen is probably delaminated a bit, and it's relatively straightforward to get a new front screen, so we'll probably get a new front screen for it, and the trim around it's all perished and gone, so that's going to be a difficult one. The very front of the car, I'm a bit upset that the front spoiler's been cracked. I think that was part of the moving it about, but it's repairable. It's just, yeah, it's a bit annoying. And all the rubbers, which is a typical hot state car, have all but perished around these lights. Don't even need those lights on the side in the UK, but I'm going to keep them because it's a US spec car. I'm going to keep it left-hand drive and make it relatively easy to go back to US spec. So overall, I'm quite happy with the condition of the outside of the car. I think it's pretty good. The wheels really are fine. They need a polish up, but we're looking at a pretty straight car. The fiberglass isn't crazed at all, which is great. You can't see that on photos and everything from photos sent through. So yeah, it needs paint obviously where there's holes and stuff, but this is not a big. You could almost paint this in isolation, little bits and pieces. You don't have to paint the whole car. It's that good. But you might end up painting the whole car if you want a proper job. Badge is missing, which is a shame. Again, I can be looking around for that. The funny thing is the front indicator lights are different on this car. They sort of point outwards. And I might get UK or European spec lights, but again, I'll keep those because that keeps it American spec and it won't hurt the UK spec. There's nothing wrong with them pointing out like that. They just look a bit weird. I feel sorry for the Americans. They always end up with something that looks slightly weird, where they try and fit the local laws, but that's how it goes. I won't be able to tell yet if the pop-up lights are working. They were pretty rubbish even when they were new. Apparently, if you did more than 70 miles an hour, the single windscreen wiper motor that lifted them wasn't powerful enough, and they just couldn't lift against the wind, the wind. So you had to slow down to pop your lights. So we might have to upgrade those to Series 2. They've got 2 windscreen wiper motors, but that's not going to be a problem. Let's have a look at the inside of the car now. So we've taken everything out of the engine bay. A lot of stuff was stored, and I've just spoken to the guy, that Kim, and he checked over the engine and did the timing chain and had the carbs rebuilt. So the engine's actually pretty good. I'm surprised. I didn't know anything about that, and had the new fuel tanks made. So actually, it's pretty good. And he also said, you know, the body's been off the chassis, and the chassis wasn't. There was no rot at all. Especially there's a notorious bit at the front where a bit of material lies against the chassis, and that normally rots the chassis terribly. This didn't have any of that at all. So it's a fantastic starting point. So yes, it looks terrible here. It's got no fuel pipes, no cooling. Electrics aren't really sorted, but it's all there to be rebuilt, really. So I'm really pleased about that. Let me show the interior now. So interior wise, the seats aren't that bad. They are faded. I'm going to give them a scrub to see if that comes up. I don't think it will. That's Florida sunshine that's just taken the colour away there. So I can get these seats to Steve Fulcher in Norfolk quite soon, really, because he can't even start them till Christmas. Not known for speed, Steve, but he's the best trimmer for this sort of seat in the world, really. And the tartan bit might be savable. It's not faded at all, and that's a really difficult bit to do, so I'm pleased about the tartan. But the rest of the interior, besides the seats and the door cards, he needs the whole car in order to finish off the rest of the interior, because it's fitting everything in, the dashboard and everything, the Nextel paint on the dashboard. So that's a project all of its own. The dash is in reasonable condition. That panel's not in at the moment. I don't know why that was taken out. Yes, the Nextel trim on top of this dash is completely gone. I think it didn't just rot in the sun. I think it evaporated. That's how hot it was. It evaporated in Florida sun. So there's a few things here that I'm pleased about. These chrome bits that run either side of the dashboard are impossible to get now. So although they're a bit pitted, I'm going to get those cleaned up, and if I can chrome them I will, but at least they're here, because you can't get them. It's the bits that are peculiar to Lotus that you worry about, and most of it's here, so I'm really pleased about that. If I can quickly show you under the bonnet as well, because that's quite interesting. When I say the bonnet, I mean the front hood, or where there is no engine. Let's have a look under here. Again, not bad. It's actually in a better state than the last car I got when I got it. It's just funny seeing the rubbers on American cars. Extreme heat just makes the rubbers just fall apart. So look at that. It's like something out of a volcanic ash situation. But it's all good. But it needs to be rebuilt. But what a starting point! I've just spoken to Kim, and he had, as I said, he had the whole body off, and when he decided that he was going to give up on not doing the whole project, he put the body back on, but it'll come off really easily. The thing is, I haven't got the money to start this project yet, and I'm a little bit overwhelmed with how much has got to be done. And I think we often get in these situations, us people who buy these cars, and they end up sat in your garage forever. And what I want to show is that even if you are overwhelmed and in that situation you haven't got the money, you can pick off little jobs and you can tick away at it. There's downsides and upsides to being a diminutive character, and I think the upside is I fit all these cars and I can really enjoy them, and it's spacious to me. And look, I've got loads of headroom. It's luxurious. And the same with the 355. If you listen to Jeremy Clarkson, he's always complaining, oh, the seat's up against the rear bulkhead and squeaking. Yeah, but you've got all the advantage of being a tall bloke. That's your disadvantage, mate. Enjoy. I can enjoy these cars. I can get luggage behind the seat, so I'm chuffed. They work for me. Part of the reason why I like Lotus Esprit S1s, they're sort of small and dynamic, and come on, it's fantastic. I've been speaking to Lotus Bits, which is a company near Rugby in the UK, and Mike there knows everything about these backbone Esprits and Elites from the 70s. That's what he does. And what you want to do is find a company that knows the car that you're trying to work on back to front. You're not paying them to scratch their heads. He knows everything about this. For instance, the gearbox on these, the Citroen gearbox, is supposed to be for front wheel drive cars, and in this application it was working the wrong way round, literally working backwards. So the wrong side of the cogs have got pressure on, and they wear very quickly. Lotus Bits know all about that, and they know the mod that makes it so that it works the right way round. And it helps because obviously this car's got a reputation for wearing out things like that, and these things are fixable. The plan for me is not to make it super fast. What I want to do is make this to be a reliable Esprit S1. It's part of the reason why I sold that first one I had, was that if you drove it through town, it popped and banged and spluttered all the time. It was a racing car, really. It needs to be on the open road all the time. I want it to be tractable in that situation. So we're looking at fuel injection, which is a common mod now. It's not a problem. Slightly bored out engine. He'll rebuild the engine, rebuild the whole chassis. So try and make this a reliable car. Keep the air conditioning, but make it 12 volt and reliable as well. That's what I'd like, is to make this car that I can drive through London. And I'd love to do, in a couple of years' time, and you can hold this to me on YouTube, is to drive this through London, through terrible London traffic, to some of the James Bond spots where 007 comes out of Q. God knows where Q is. It's not where it comes out, but it always comes out of a railway arch near Westminster, and there aren't any. But we'll try and find some of the stomping ground of Bond in this car. It'd be great. But that means it has to be a reliable car. It has to cool well. It can't overheat. So we're trying to address all those issues as part of the build on this one. That's what I'd like to do. It's really interesting, having spoken to Kim, he sent me a photo of the original owner standing in front of this car, and it gave me goosebumps to see the inspiration and the optimism this car produced for those people who bought them way back in the 70s. And it's inspired me to really get this car back to where it was when it was delivered new back in 1977 or whatever date it was. I want to bring it back up to that condition. I think I owe it to that chap who had it then, and I owe it to the car to bring it back. It's like a Herbie situation, isn't it? That's what I want. I want Herbie brushed down and brought back to life, because it's such a beautiful Giugiaro design, and they never were that reliable in the day. Let's make this not quite a submarine, but make it reliable. You know, that's it. It would be great to see a reliable S1 on the road that can be used in action and in traffic and all sorts of situations, and not break down, not be loads of trouble, usually serious, which is what Lotus stands for, if you didn't know. I want to try and transform that as part of this build. Let's see if we can do that. So, honest conclusion, hit or miss? I think this is a hit. It's not like, oh my God, off the scale hit, I've got myself an amazing, fantastic bargain. It's still a lot of money. But to get a good Lotus Esprit S1, which after all is a Bond car, that's not rusty, with all the bits there, and a good basis for a restoration, I'm really pleased with it. And, you know, as they say in the UK, I'm chuffed to bits. Thanks for watching. See you next time.